Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder how our brains make decisions when there are a lot of choices and you are not sure which one is best? So imagine you are an animal, maybe a lemur, trying to find the best tree to get fruit. You don't just pick any tree, right? You have to learn which trees are likely to have lots of ripe fruit, where to find that fruit on the tree, and even when to give up on a tree and find a new one. This whole process of searching for and consuming resources is called patch foraging. It is super common in nature. From tiny worms looking for bacteria to us humans clicking from one Wikipedia article to another. This means it is not a simple one-time decision. You have to constantly decide if you are in the right place and if it is time to move. Most studies look at just one part of this foraging puzzle, like how we decide to leave a patch or how we learn to identify what is good to eat. But in real life, these things are all connected. Plus, foraging is often a team effort. Think about birds foraging together, sharing information about where food is. That is where this new virtual world called BitterBuster comes in. The researchers created a game where players navigate a world with different neighborhoods. And inside those neighborhoods are houses. The goal is to find bitter Oomplets, which are like little creatures based on their colors and textures. Each neighborhood has a different chance of having bitter Oomplets, and within each neighborhood, some houses are better than others. In the first experiment, one person played BitterBuster alone. They had to explore neighborhoods, go into houses, and then classify Oomplets as bitter or sweet. They got feedback on whether they were right, and over time, they were supposed to learn which Oomplets were bitter and which neighborhoods were the best to search in. They played for different amounts of time, with the first round being longer to let them get the hang of it. So, what did they find? Well, their foraging got better with practice. They collected more rewards as they played more rounds. Also, they noticed a little dip in how fast they were collecting things right before they decided to leave a neighborhood. This is super interesting because it suggests they were starting to realize that the effort to get to the next house or neighborhood was becoming too much compared to the rewards they were getting. This is like balancing how much fruit you are getting from a tree versus how much energy it takes to climb it and how likely the next tree is to be better. Even more compelling, they found they were actually thinking about the effort involved in reaching other neighborhoods. This means they weren't just grabbing fruit until it was gone. They were thinking about the bigger picture and the cost of moving. The game seems to be really good at teaching players a few things. First, players got much better at actually telling bitter Oomplets from sweet ones. Their ability to do this, measured by something called D prime, or D, which is like a score for how well you can distinguish things, improved a lot. They also learned to favor neighborhoods that were more likely to have bitter Oomplets. This is measured by something called neighborhood bias, and it showed that players started spending more time in the good neighborhoods. What they didn't seem to learn as well within the timescale of the experiment was the finer details within a neighborhood, like knowing exactly which house in a neighborhood was going to be the best. This suggests that learning the overall value of a place is easier than learning the exact layout of valuable spots inside it. They also did some fancy math using something called a linear mixed effects regression, which is like a statistical detective. This analysis confirmed that both being good at spotting bitter Oomplets, that D prime score, and knowing which neighborhoods were good, neighborhood bias independently helped people be better foragers. Now, what happens when you try this in a team? In the second experiment, they split the task. One person was the explorer and moved around the world, picking which houses to enter. The other person was the selector, and they were shown the Oomplets from those houses and had to decide if they were bitter or sweet. Importantly, the explorer didn't see what the selector was doing, and the selector didn't see the whole map. They had to rely on limited communication and feedback. And guess what? The teams actually performed very similarly to the solo players. The explorers learned to find good neighborhoods, and the selectors got better at identifying bitter Oomplets. However, there was one really cool difference in the team version. They found a significant interaction between the explorers' neighborhood knowledge and the selectors' ability to spot bitter Oomplets. This means that when both teammates were good at their respective jobs, the team's overall performance was even better. It is like having two skilled players amplifies their strength. So, what does all this mean? The main takeaway is that BitterBuster is a really useful tool for understanding how we forage for resources, whether we're alone or in a team. It captures all the complexities of real-world decision-making, from learning to identify things to deciding where to go and when to move on. The researchers found that players learned to distinguish bitter from sweet Oomplets and adjusted their strategy to the value of different neighborhoods. They also showed that players were making smart decisions about leaving a patch when the effort outweighed the reward. One interesting limitation they pointed out is that in just one session, people didn't get really good at learning the finer details of where to find resources within a neighborhood. This suggests that if you want to study that kind of detailed spatial learning, you might need longer play sessions or clearer clues. But for studying how we learn to pick the right neighborhoods and identify what we're looking for, BitterBuster works great. The team aspect is also really promising for understanding how we work together. It can help us study how people coordinate, share information, and how splitting tasks between teammates can improve performance. And this is where it gets really futuristic. The researchers think BitterBuster is perfect for studying human AI teams. Imagine an AI that is really good at exploring and making decisions about where to go, and a human who is great at classifying things. This game could help us figure out how humans and AI can best work together. Ultimately, BitterBuster is a flexible playground for scientists to test different theories about decision-making, whether we're working alone with other people or with machines. It gives us real data on how we learn and make choices in complex environments. In my opinion, this is a really clever way to study something as fundamental as foraging. The virtual environment makes it controlled, but it feels natural enough to capture real-world decision-making. The solo and team versions are both valuable. The solo version helps us understand individual learning and decision processes, while the team version opens up a whole new world of studying social cognition and collaboration. The fact that they can tweak different aspects of the game, like how likely certain rewards are, or how much effort it takes to move, makes it incredibly adaptable for future research. One limitation, as they mentioned, is the difficulty in learning the very fine-grained spatial patterns within a patch in a short amount of time. This is common in many lab studies. Real-world learning often happens over much longer periods and with more immediate consequences. However, the fact that they did see learning in perceptual classification and neighborhood value is a strong indicator that the task is sensitive to important cognitive processes. The potential for studying human-AI teaming is particularly exciting. We're going to be interacting with AI more and more, and understanding how to optimize that collaboration is crucial. A shared, interpretable environment like BitterBuster could be a game changer for that. I am curious to see how researchers will use BitterBuster to explore different foraging strategies or to investigate how factors like stress or experience influence foraging decisions. Will players develop distinct personalities in how they explore or exploit patches? We'll have to wait and see. What do you guys think about the BitterBuster game? Does it remind you of any times you've had to make similar decisions? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the science of decision making, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more fascinating research explained. We'll see you in the next one.